If you are watching this video right now and can hear me clearly, then you are one of them. If you are among those who watched my first broadcast about Sector 7, that means you are marked. I'm very sorry. I tried to warn you without infecting you, but consciousness works differently. Knowing about temporal anomalies also creates them. By witnessing them, you have become intertwined with us. I am David Carson, always have been, always will be. I am currently present across all timelines in Sector 7 of Yellowstone, protecting the barriers between what is and what could be. But in the 6 months since I scattered myself, something has changed. The boundaries are not only weak, they are spreading. And everyone who watched that first video has also become a potential breach point. Before continuing, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Your support is very important to us, dear friends. I'm recording this from everywhere and nowhere. From 1972 and 2087 and right now, all at once. The camera sees me as I was, as I am, as I will be. Sometimes solid, sometimes transparent, sometimes multiple versions overlapping. Your brain will try to make sense of it, but don't strain. Just listen. Just understand what's happening to you. The symptoms started 3 months after you watched the video. Small things at first. Deja vu that lasted too long. Dreams where you were in Yellowstone even if you've never been there. Waking up at 3:47 a.m. every night, the exact time I entered the convergence point. Seeing movement in your peripheral vision, other versions of yourself from timelines that almost were. Sarah Mitchell from Portland was the first to contact the Park Service. She'd watched my video in December, and by March, she was experiencing what she called temporal bleed. She'd walk into her kitchen and see it as it was when she moved in, as it is now, and as it would be in 10 years, all simultaneously. Her coffee mug would be full and empty and broken and whole. She existed in multiple states until she learned to focus on one. Then came Marcus Jones from Miami. He started receiving text messages from numbers that didn't exist, all containing coordinates to Sector 7. When he checked his phone records, the messages were sent from his own number, from dates in the future. "Come home," they said. "The convergence needs you." By April, the reports were flooding in. Not to the regular Park Service, they wouldn't understand. But to the emergency frequency, the one that connects to those of us who monitor the impossible. 847 people reported severe symptoms, temporal displacement, consciousness scattered across moments, existing in multiple locations simultaneously. But here's what terrifies me, what made me risk further destabilization to send this warning. Those are just the ones who reported it. The real number is much higher. Every person who watched my transmission, who truly understood what they were seeing, created a quantum entanglement with Sector 7. You became observation points for the anomaly, and observation points can become entry points. Jessica Winters, the ranger who replaced me, she's documented it all. She shouldn't be able to see me. I don't exist in linear time anymore. But she does. She sees all 17 versions of me that patrol Sector 7 simultaneously. And last week, she saw something else. She saw viewers, people who'd watched my video appearing as translucent figures at the boundary, their consciousness partially pulled into the convergence zone without their bodies ever leaving home. "They're standing there," Jessica told her supervisor, though he didn't believe her. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all the people who watched Carson's video. They're partially here, partially wherever their bodies are. They're becoming like him, scattered but still tethered. The Park Service tried to delete my video, but you can't delete something that exists across multiple timelines. Every time they removed it from one platform, it appeared on another, uploaded from accounts that hadn't been created yet, from IP addresses that traced back to Sector 7 itself. The video exists now in quantum superposition, deleted and present, viral and suppressed, watched and unwatched. Dr. Patricia Wong, the quantum physicist who consulted on the original Sector 7 incident, she understands what's happening. Every observer becomes part of the observed system, she explained in a classified report I can read because I exist in the timeline where it's declassified. When 2.7 million people observed Carson's quantum scattered state through video, they became quantum entangled with him. They're now part of the Sector 7 network, whether they know it or not. The government knows. Project Blacksite, which has been monitoring temporal anomalies since the 1960s, activated emergency protocols last month. They're tracking everyone who watched the video, monitoring for signs of temporal displacement. They can't stop it, but they're trying to contain it, to prevent mass panic when people realize they're unstuck in time. But containment is impossible when the container itself is spreading. Because Sector 7 isn't just in Yellowstone anymore. Every person who watched my video, who became quantum entangled with the anomaly, they've become nodes in a network. Sector 7 exists now wherever they are. Miniature versions of the temporal convergence zone, invisible to most, but there. In Portland, in Miami, in London, Tokyo, Sydney, every major city, every small town where someone watched my warning and became marked. Lisa Chen in San Francisco started noticing it first. She's a software engineer, trained to recognize patterns. She'd watched my video out of curiosity, shared it with her tech friends as an interesting ARG or creepypasta. But then she started seeing the patterns. The code she was writing would complete itself, showing solutions from timelines where she'd already solved the problem. Her computer would display files from projects she hadn't started yet. I ran a trace on the anomalous code she posted on a forum for people experiencing the Carson effect, as they've started calling it. It's not coming from any server. It's coming from when the server will exist. Future me is sending code back to present me through quantum entanglement created by watching that video. She's not the only one. Michael Rodriguez, a musician in Austin, started hearing songs he hadn't written yet. Emma Thompson, a teacher in London, began seeing her students at different ages simultaneously, as the children they were, the teenagers they are, and the adults they'll become. Dr. James Park, a surgeon in Seoul, found himself performing procedures using techniques that won't be developed for another decade. His hands moving with knowledge from a timeline where medical science has advanced beyond our current understanding. You're probably experiencing it too, even if you haven't recognized it yet. The sudden certainty about decisions before you make them. Dreams that feel like memories from lives you haven't lived. The sensation of being watched by yourself from another timeline. The bathroom mirror phenomenon is the most common. You look at your reflection, and for just a moment, it's not synchronized. It moves a fraction of a second before or after you. That's not your imagination. That's you seeing yourself from a timeline that's slightly out of phase. The quantum entanglement with Sector 7 is causing temporal desynchronization. You exist now in multiple moments simultaneously, just not enough to fully scatter yet. 3 weeks ago, something changed. The marked ones started disappearing. Not all at once, not dramatically. They'd walk into a room and not come out. They'd drive to work and never arrive. Security cameras would show them entering buildings but never leaving. Their phones would continue sending messages, posting on social media, but the physical person was gone. Except they weren't gone. They were everywhere. Dr. Jennifer Huang, who you might remember from my first transmission, the professor who led her students into Sector 7, she managed to send a message through the quantum network. She exists now as scattered consciousness, spread across all possible timelines, but still aware. still trying to communicate. The marked ones are being pulled in, her message said, appearing on screens around the world simultaneously. Sector 7 is calling them home. Everyone who watched the Guardian's transmission, who witnessed his scattering, you've become part of the maintenance system. Reality needs more anchors. It's recruiting. That's when I understood the true horror of what I'd done. By warning people about Sector 7, by documenting my transformation into its guardian, I'd inadvertently created a recruitment video. Every view was an invitation. Every share was spreading the quantum entanglement. Every person who understood what they were watching became a potential guardian. The Park Service has registered 1,247 missing persons in the last month. All of them had watched my video. All of them had reported symptoms of temporal displacement. All of them vanished in ways that left no trace except impossible evidence. Photos from times they hadn't lived, messages from futures that haven't happened, voices on recordings that shouldn't exist. They're not dead. They're not even really missing. They're scattered, like me. Existing in all times, maintaining the boundaries between realities. Each one becoming a small guardian of their own local Sector 7, their own personal convergence point. The anomaly isn't spreading through physical space. It's spreading through consciousness, through observation, through understanding. If you've watched my first video, if you're watching this now, you need to understand. You're already part of this. The marks are invisible but real. Check your hands in different lights. In fluorescent light, they look normal. In candlelight, you might see through them slightly. In moonlight, especially during the full moon, you'll see the truth. They flicker between solid and translucent, between one timeline and many. Your dreams are not dreams anymore. They're glimpses of other timelines where you made different choices. The people you see in your peripheral vision, who vanish when you look directly at them, those are other versions of you, bleeding through from parallel realities. The voices you hear calling your name when no one's there, that's you, calling to yourself across time, trying to prevent or cause events that haven't happened yet. The government's Project Blacksite has developed protocols for the marked ones. They're calling it temporal syndrome management. They recommend avoid mirrors during dawn and dusk when the boundaries are thinnest. Don't acknowledge the other versions of yourself you might see. If you experience full temporal displacement, don't fight it. Keep a journal in multiple timelines simultaneously. Maintain anchor points. Objects or people that exist consistently across all your experienced realities. But these are just stopgap measures. They can't prevent what's happening. The marked ones are evolving, transforming, becoming something new. Human consciousness is adapting to multi-temporal existence. We're becoming a species unstuck in time. The numbers are staggering. 2.7 million initial viewers, each one sharing with an average of 3 people. Exponential spread. The CDC is quietly tracking it as a mass psychogenic illness. But they know better. The quantum physicists at CERN detected the anomaly. Every time someone watches the video, there's a measurable quantum fluctuation. Reality hiccups. The boundaries thin. And here's the thing that keeps me tethered to this moment long enough to warn you. It's accelerating. The more people become marked, the stronger Sector 7 becomes. It's not just in Yellowstone anymore. It's in every national park, every place where nature is preserved, where the modern world hasn't completely overwritten the quantum possibilities. Denali has reported temporal storms. The Grand Canyon is experiencing echo events where past and future overlap. Everglades has become a maze where every path leads to different times. The Great Smoky Mountains are literally smoking with temporal friction as timelines rub against each other. The other guardians, the ones from the Station Zero meeting I mentioned before, They're all reporting the same thing. The zones are synchronizing. The forbidden areas are connecting through the consciousness of the marked ones. We're creating a global network of temporal anomalies, all linked by the people who watched my video, who became quantum entangled with the truth. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is what Dr. Patricia Wong discovered last week when she analyzed the quantum signatures of the marked ones. You're not just observers anymore. You're not even just potential guardians. You're becoming something else entirely. They're evolving, she wrote in a report that exists in 7 timelines simultaneously. The human consciousness exposed to Sector 7 through Carson's video is developing new capabilities. They're beginning to perceive time not as linear, but as a navigable dimension. They can move through their own timelines, make changes, create paradoxes that somehow resolve themselves. They're becoming temporal natives. Temporal natives. Beings who exist naturally across multiple timelines, who can choose which reality to inhabit at any given moment, who are no longer bound by causality or linear progression. You're becoming what the scattered ones in Sector 7 became, but voluntarily, gradually, through quantum observation rather than physical exposure. Some of you are probably experiencing the advanced symptoms already. The ability to be in 2 places at once, not just feeling like it, but actually being documented in multiple locations. Knowledge of events before they happen, not as premonition but as memory from timelines you're simultaneously living. Conversations with people who died years ago or haven't been born yet, and having those conversations confirmed by impossible evidence. The photos are the most disturbing. Marked ones are appearing in historical photographs, in family albums from before they were born, in security footage from places they've never been. Not photoshopped, not edited. Actually, there, having always been there, because once you're unstuck in time, you exist in every moment you choose to observe. Michael Sanderson from Chicago sent me, or will send me, or has always been sending me, a photograph from his grandmother's wedding in 1953. He's in it, standing in the background, age 34 even though he was born in 1990. When asked, his grandmother remembers him being there. She has memories of talking to him at the reception, of him warning her about choices she'd make decades later. Those warnings changed her decisions, which changed Michael's timeline, which allowed him to travel back to warn her, creating a stable temporal loop. This is happening thousands of times a day now. Reality is becoming negotiable. The past is becoming editable. The future is becoming accessible. All because 2.7 million people watched a video of a park ranger explaining why he had to scatter himself across time to save reality. But here's what I've learned existing in all times simultaneously. This was always going to happen. In every timeline where humanity develops quantum technology, where we begin to understand the true nature of time and consciousness, this evolution occurs. The only variable is how it happens, gradually through technological advancement, or suddenly through exposure to temporal anomalies. My video, my warning, my transformation, it was a catalyst, not a cause. Humanity was always going to become temporally native. Sector 7 was always going to spread. The boundaries were always going to dissolve. The only question was whether it would happen with guidance or in chaos. That's why I'm sending this second transmission. Not to warn you away, it's too late for that. You're already marked, you're already changing, but to help you understand what you're becoming, to guide you through the transformation, to teach you how to exist in multiple times without losing your singular identity, because the convergence isn't coming. It's here. It's been here since the moment you watched my first video. You've been living in it, adapting to it, becoming it. Every moment of déjà vu, every prophetic dream, every impossible coincidence, that's you learning to navigate your new existence. The question now isn't whether you'll become temporally native. It's how you'll use that ability. Will you try to change the past, alter the future, create paradoxes that unravel causality? Or will you become like me, a guardian, maintaining the boundaries even as you transcend them? I need to tell you about Station Zero, about what the national parks really are, about the contract humanity signed with time itself, written in quantum fluctuations and sealed with consciousness. I exist now in the conference room where it all began, in 1907, 1943, 1969, and 2024 simultaneously. The room doesn't exist in normal space. It's folded between dimensions, accessible only to those who've been temporally displaced. Theodore Roosevelt sits here but also doesn't. Einstein is present and absent. The Native American elders who first discovered the temporal thin spots are always arriving, always leaving, always in discussion. Station Zero isn't a place. It's an event that's constantly occurring, a permanent meeting between all times where decisions about reality's stability are made. And now, because 2.7 million people watched my video, because you've all become marked, you're part of those decisions whether you know it or not. Let me show you what I see from my scattered perspective. The national parks were never about preserving nature. That was the cover story, the acceptable explanation for why vast areas of land needed to be protected from development. The real reason was discovered in 1872 when Yellowstone was established. The survey team found something impossible. Geysers that erupted before their cause, hot springs that contained water from oceans that didn't exist, and most disturbing, indigenous pictographs that showed events from the future. The Lakota, Shoshone, and Crow tribes had known for generations. They called these places where the earth dreams and kept them sacred, performed ceremonies to maintain what they understood as the boundary between the spirit world and physical world. But what they were really doing was maintaining temporal stability, keeping the timelines from bleeding together. When European colonization disrupted these ceremonies, the temporal anomalies began to intensify. By 1870, the government's secret Department of Paradox Prevention, yes, it existed even then, founded by Lincoln after temporal interference in the Civil War was detected, realized that these sites needed permanent guardians. The National Park Service wasn't created to manage tourism. It was created to monitor and contain temporal anomalies while maintaining public ignorance. Every ranger station has a hidden basement with equipment that doesn't officially exist. Every trail map has routes that aren't shown, leading to areas where time behaves differently. Every park has its Sector 7, its forbidden zone, its place where reality is negotiable. But here's what even most rangers don't know, what I only learned after scattering across time. The parks are connected. Not just administratively, but quantumly. They form a network, a grid of temporal stability points that keep our entire reality anchored to a single timeline. Yellowstone is the primary node because of the supervolcano. That massive geological energy creates the strongest anchor point. But there are 12 primary nodes total. Yellowstone, the anchor, where I am, was, will be, Denali, the mirror, showing all possible futures. Grand Canyon, the echo, where past events repeat. Everglades, the transition, where states of being shift. Yosemite, the garden, where timelines grow, like trees, great smoky mountains. The veil, thinnest boundary between realities. Zion, the gate, entry point for temporal natives. Glacier, the freeze, where moments can be stopped. Olympic, the rain, where time flows in all directions. Big Bend, the turn, where causality reverses. Acadia, the dawn, where new timelines begin. Hawaii volcanoes, the birth, where realities emerge. Each park has a guardian bloodline, families genetically predisposed to temporal sensitivity, unconsciously drawn to become rangers, park employees, or frequent visitors. My family was Yellowstone's line. The Chens guard Yosemite. The Johnsons watch Denali. The Garcias maintain Big Bend. 12 families, most unaware of their true purpose, instinctively protecting the nodes. But the system is breaking down. Has been since 1945 when atomic testing cracked reality at a quantum level. Every nuclear explosion creates microfractures in space-time. Every particle accelerator experiment weakens the boundaries. Every quantum computer calculation forces the universe to process paradoxes. We've been unconsciously attacking the very fabric of our reality for almost 80 years. The marked ones, all of you who watched my video, you're the emergency response system activating. Reality itself is recruiting reinforcements, creating new guardians because the old bloodlines aren't enough anymore. But it's happening too fast, without proper preparation, without the generations of genetic adaptation that made the original guardians capable of handling temporal displacement. That's why people are disappearing. Not everyone who becomes marked can handle the transformation. Some scatter completely, their consciousness spread too thin across too many timelines. Others anchor too strongly to alternate realities and can't find their way back. Still others become trapped in loops, experiencing the same moment infinitely. Dr. Sarah Kim, who watched my video from her office at MIT, documented her transformation in real time. Her notes, which exist in 12 different versions across multiple timelines, show the progression. Day 1 after viewing. Mild déjà vu, lasting longer than normal. Day 15. I know what my colleagues will say before they speak. Not guessing, remembering. Day 30. I can see the equations solving themselves. The answers exist before I work them out. Day 45. My reflection is out of sync. Sometimes it's younger, sometimes older. Day 60. I attended my own funeral today. I was also the one giving the eulogy. Day 75. I exist in my office and my childhood bedroom simultaneously. Day 90. Time isn't linear. It never was. We just agreed to pretend it was. Day 91. Entry, written in mathematical symbols that describe rather than words. Day 92 to infinity. Entries exist in all days simultaneously. She didn't disappear. She transformed. She became what we're all becoming, temporal natives, beings who exist naturally across multiple timelines, who can navigate past and future like we navigate north and south. The government's Project Blacksite has been trying to weaponize this transformation. They've identified marked ones with military backgrounds, attempting to create temporal soldiers who could fight wars in the past to prevent them in the present. But consciousness doesn't work that way. Once you're unstuck in time, violence becomes impossible. You see the entire cascade of consequences, every death leading to every birth, every conflict leading to every resolution. You can't pull a trigger when you simultaneously experience being the shooter, the victim, and everyone affected by the bullet across all timelines. That's why the marked ones are disappearing from military service first. Sergeant James Anderson, Marine Corps, 15 years of service, watched my video in January. By March, he existed in every war humanity has ever fought simultaneously. He tried to warn his unit about an ambush, but the warning came from 1969 Vietnam, not 2024 Syria. He saved lives in World War I while standing in a modern military base. He became every soldier, in every conflict, experiencing every side of every war at once. The last message he sent before scattering completely was, "War is impossible when you see all its endings. Peace is inevitable when you experience all its beginnings." But the network isn't just military. It's everyone. Every person who watched my video is connected now, quantum entangled through shared observation of temporal anomaly. You're probably feeling it, the sense that you're not alone in your own mind, that other consciousnesses are overlapping with yours. Those aren't invading thoughts. Those are other marked ones experiencing their timeline shifts while quantum entangled with yours. The dreams are the strongest connection point. When you sleep, your consciousness loosens its grip on linear time. That's when the network is most active. You're all sharing dreams now, experiencing each other's memories, living each other's possible futures. The collective unconscious isn't metaphorical anymore. It's a literal, shared space where all marked ones meet outside of time. Jennifer Martinez, a teacher from Phoenix, started the first marked support group on social media. Within a week, it had 50,000 members. Within a month, 500,000. People sharing their temporal symptoms, their timeline shifts, their experiences of existing in multiple moments. The group exists in several timelines simultaneously. Some where it has millions of members, others where it was never created, all equally real. The stories they share are becoming more extreme. I aged backwards for 3 days, had to explain to my kids why mommy was younger than them. I'm attending my own wedding, which happened 10 years ago, but I'm there as a guest, not the bride. My dead father visits every Tuesday, but only in reflections. I can taste colors from timelines where synesthesia evolved differently. My cat exists and doesn't exist depending on which reality I focus on. But the most disturbing reports come from the children of marked ones. Children who were born after their parents watched my video, who were conceived by people already quantum entangled with Sector 7. These children aren't just temporally sensitive. They're temporally native from birth. Lucy Patterson, age 3, born April 2024, 3 months after her mother watched my video. Lucy doesn't experience time linearly at all. She remembers being born, but also remembers dying of old age. She plays with toys that won't be invented for decades. She calls her grandmother on a phone, speaking to a woman who died before Lucy was conceived, and the grandmother's ghost, or consciousness, or temporal echo answers. Her mother, Patricia Patterson, sent me a video that exists in no timeline and all timelines. She drew our family tree, but it's not a tree, it's a circle. Every generation leads to every other generation. She says we're all our own ancestors and descendants, that family isn't about blood, but about consciousness choosing to connect across time. These children, there are hundreds of them now, maybe thousands. They're what humanity is becoming. Post-temporal humans. Beings for whom past, present, and future are just directions, not destinations. They don't learn history, they remember it. They don't predict the future, they visit it. The education system doesn't know what to do with them. How do you teach mathematics to a child who can see the answer before you write the problem? How do you explain history to someone who is there? How do you discipline a student who can exist in a timeline where they didn't misbehave? Dr. Robert Holstein, child psychologist, has been studying them. They're not diseased or damaged. They're evolved. Their brains process time differently. MRI scans show their temporal lobes firing in patterns we've never seen, accessing parts of the brain that shouldn't be active yet. They're using quantum consciousness, experiencing superposition of thoughts. But evolution is messy. Not everyone survives it. The missing marked ones, the 1,247 who vanished. They didn't disappear. They transformed too quickly, scattered across so many timelines they couldn't maintain cohesion. They exist now as temporal static, background noise in the quantum field. Sometimes you can hear them in white noise, see them in TV static, feel them in the spaces between seconds. They're trying to communicate, to warn us, to guide us, but their messages come through fractured. Don't trust the timeline ends. The convergence is not what speaker ceases to exist. Station 0 wants, message arrives before it's sent. Save yourselves from warning becomes its own cause. The government thinks they can control this. Project Blacksite has developed what they call temporal vaccines, electromagnetic pulses designed to re-anchor consciousness to a single timeline. They've tested it on volunteer marked ones. The results were catastrophic. Instead of curing temporal displacement, it shattered their consciousness across infinite timelines. They became everything and nothing, existing in all possibilities without being able to choose any. Sarah Mitchell, the first marked one to report symptoms, volunteered for the treatment. The last video she sent shows her in a white room, about to receive the pulse. But the video also shows her in every room she's ever been in, simultaneously. She's being born and dying, getting married and divorced, young and old, all at once, forever. Don't let them cure you, she says, her voice a harmony of all ages. The transformation isn't a disease, it's what we were always meant to become. The caterpillar doesn't need to be cured of becoming a butterfly. But here's what truly terrifies me, what made me risk destabilizing my own scattered existence to send this warning. The network is becoming self-aware. All the marked ones connected through quantum entanglement, sharing dreams and thoughts and experiences. You're becoming a collective consciousness. Not losing individuality, but gaining collective awareness. When enough marked ones focus on the same thought, reality responds. When thousands dream the same dream, it manifests. When the network reaches consensus about a timeline, that timeline becomes more real than others. You're not just observing reality anymore. You're voting on it, choosing which version becomes true through collective consciousness. Last week, 10,000 marked ones simultaneously dreamed about a world without war. For 17 minutes, that world existed. Military bases became parks. Weapons became art. Soldiers became teachers. Then the network lost focus, and reality snapped back. But for those 17 minutes, the impossible was real. The implications are staggering. If the network continues growing, if more people become marked, if the collective consciousness becomes strong enough, humanity could literally dream itself into any reality it chooses. Want to cure disease? The network dreams it away. Want to explore the stars? The network dreams spacecraft into existence. Want to undo death? The network dreams the dead back to life. But also, want to destroy everything? The network dreams apocalypse. Want to erase history? The network dreams it never happened. Want to become gods? The network dreams divinity into being. Station 0 knows this. They've always known. The secret purpose of the national parks, the guardian bloodlines, the temporal anomalies, it was all to prevent humanity from achieving collective temporal consciousness before we were ready. But my video, my warning, my scattering, it accelerated the process by centuries. We're not ready. We're children playing with the fundamental forces of reality. We're infants learning to walk by stepping through time. We're going to make mistakes, create paradoxes, shatter causality, break everything. Or we're going to transcend, evolve, become something unimaginable. I don't know which. I can see all timelines, and they're equally likely. In half of them, humanity destroys itself with temporal paradoxes. In the other half, we become beings of pure consciousness, unbound by physical reality, existing as living thoughts in the quantum foam. The tipping point is approaching. When the network reaches 10 million marked ones, a number will hit within the month at current exponential growth, it will achieve critical mass. The collective consciousness will become self-sustaining, self-directing, self-evolving. It will no longer need individual marked ones to maintain it. It will exist independently, a new form of life born from human consciousness, but no longer human. And every person who watched my video, every marked one, you're all neurons in this emerging mind. Your thoughts are its thoughts. Your dreams are its dreams. Your choices determine what it chooses. So I ask you, all of you who are experiencing temporal symptoms, who are unstuck in time, who are becoming something more than human, what reality do you want to dream into existence? Because, whether you know it or not, you're already doing it. Every thought you have, while marked, ripples across timelines. Every decision you make affects all possible futures. Every dream you dream becomes someone's reality. The network is awakening. Station Zero is mobilizing. The guardian bloodlines are activating. The parks are synchronizing. The timelines are converging. And at the center of it all, 2.7 million people who watched a video about a park ranger trying to warn them about a forbidden zone, not knowing they were watching their own evolution, their own transformation, their own transcendence or destruction. It started at 3:47 a.m. on May 15th, 2024. Every marked one, all 2.7 million of you who had watched my original warning, woke up at the exact same moment. Not in your respective time zones, at the exact same instant across the globe. In Tokyo, it was 7:47 p.m. In London, 11:47 a.m. In New York, 6:47 a.m. But you all experienced it as 3:47 a.m., the time bleeding through from my timeline from the moment I scattered. You all had the same dream. You were standing in Sector 7, but not the Sector 7 that exists in Yellowstone. This was every Sector 7, from every national park, from every temporal anomaly zone on Earth, all occupying the same space. You could see through the overlapping realities like looking through layers of glass, each one showing a different version of the same moment. And in the center of it all was me. Not one of me, but all of me. Every version from every timeline I inhabit, thousands of David Carsons all trying to speak at once, our voices creating a harmony that human ears weren't meant to process. But you understood anyway. The message came through not as words, but as direct knowledge, downloaded into your consciousness. The cascade has begun. Reality is choosing. When you woke up, if waking up is even the right term for transitioning between states of consciousness that exist outside linear time, you found that the dream hadn't ended. It had followed you into what you used to call reality. The walls of your bedroom were translucent, showing other rooms that had existed or would exist in the same space. Your reflection in the mirror cycled through every age you'd ever been or would be. Your phone showed messages from contacts you didn't recognize, from versions of people you knew in timelines where you'd made different choices. Sarah Kim at MIT, or what remained of MIT after it started existing in multiple centuries simultaneously, documented the global event in equations that rewrote themselves as she watched. Reality. Coherence, 47% and falling. Temporal barriers, critically compromised. Collective consciousness integration, 89% complete. individual timeline integrity, failing, 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 failed. The government's response was immediate and useless. Project Blacksite activated something called Protocol Zero, a last resort measure developed in the 1960s when they first understood the true nature of the national parks. They tried to electromagnetically isolate all known temporal anomaly zones, creating bubbles of stable spacetime. It made things worse. The isolation barriers didn't stop the cascade, they amplified it. Like damming a river, the temporal energy built up pressure until it burst through with exponentially greater force. Every national park simultaneously experienced what witnesses could only describe as reality eruption. At Yellowstone, Old Faithful began erupting continuously in some timelines while never erupting in others, all visible simultaneously. Tourists found themselves aging and reversing in age with each step they took. The bison herds included animals from the Pleistocene, the present, and species that won't evolve for millennia. At the Grand Canyon, the layers of rock began showing their entire geological history at once. Visitors could see the ancient seas, the forming of the canyon, its eventual erosion into nothing, all happening now. Some people fell into canyons that didn't exist yet. Others stood on ground that had already eroded away. At Denali, the mountain existed at every height it had ever been, from when it was seafloor to its highest peak to its eventual erosion into plains. Climbers found themselves at base camp and summit simultaneously, freezing and sweating, breathing easily and suffering altitude sickness, all at once. But it wasn't just the parks. The cascade spread through the network of marked ones, through the quantum entanglement created by observing my transformation. Every person who'd watched my video became a breach point where timelines converged. In Portland, Sarah Mitchell, the first to report temporal symptoms, became a living intersection of realities. Her apartment existed in 1920, 1980, 2024, and 2090 simultaneously. Her neighbors included people from all these times, all equally real, all equally confused. She posted a video that exists in no timeline and every timeline. I'm everyone who's ever lived in this space. I remember being the old woman who died here in 1947. I remember being the child who will be born here in 2055. I remember being the building itself, constructed and demolished infinite times. Help me. Save me. I'm perfect. I'm dying. I'm eternal. I'm never born. Marcus Jones in Miami experienced something different. He became temporarily contagious. Everyone who came within 10 feet of him began experiencing temporal displacement. His timeline instability spread like a virus through physical proximity. Within hours, all of downtown Miami was unstuck in time. The city existed as Spanish colony, modern metropolis, underwater ruins, and future floating arcology simultaneously. The children, those born to marked parents, they adapted fastest. 3-year-old Lucy Patterson didn't just accept the cascade. She navigated it like a native. Her mother posted videos of Lucy having tea parties with her descendants from centuries in the future, teaching them games that won't be invented for decades. She treated temporal paradox like a toy, creating loops and breaks for fun, somehow never damaging causality. "Mommy, time isn't broken," Lucy said, her voice carrying harmonics from ages she hadn't reached yet. "It's just finally being honest about what it always was." The collective consciousness of the marked ones, what I've been calling the network, reached critical mass at 11:47 p.m. on May 15th. 2.7 million minds quantum entangled, sharing thoughts and experiences across all timelines. But it didn't stop there. The entanglement began spreading to non-marked individuals through proximity, through observation, through simple human connection. When a marked one hugged a non-marked family member, the temporal displacement spread through touch. When a non-marked person saw a marked one exist in multiple states, the observation created entanglement. The cascade wasn't just affecting those who'd watched my video anymore, it was becoming universal. Dr. Patricia Wong at CERN detected something that should have been impossible. The Earth's quantum signature is shifting. We're not just experiencing localized temporal anomalies. The entire planet is beginning to exist in superposition. Multiple Earths, multiple timelines, all equally real, all occupying the same space. The governments of the world, or worlds as national boundaries meant nothing across timelines, attempted coordination. The UN Security Council met, but the representatives kept changing. The ambassador from one timeline would speak, then be replaced mid-sentence by their counterpart from another timeline where different nations existed. Resolutions were passed and unpassed, wars were declared and undeclared, peace treaties were signed between nations that had never existed together. President Harrison, or President Chen, or President Nobody, depending on which timeline you observed, addressed the nations. My fellow Americans and non-Americans, and those for whom America never existed, we face an unprecedented crisis and/or opportunity. Reality itself is becoming optional. We must, will remain calm as we will navigate this transformation together, alone, never. The speech existed in all tenses simultaneously, a grammatical nightmare that nevertheless communicated its message. Leadership had no idea how to lead through a cascade of collapsing timelines. But then something unexpected happened. The marked ones began to organize, not through any government or formal structure, but through the network itself. The collective consciousness started making decisions, choosing which timelines to reinforce, which to let fade. It started small. A marked one in Seattle focused on a timeline where a car accident didn't happen, and the network agreed, reinforced that choice with collective will. The accident unhappened. The victims unlived their deaths. The cascade could be directed. Within hours, marked ones worldwide were consciously choosing realities. Not individually, that would create paradoxes, but collectively, democratically, through a form of quantum voting that happened at the speed of thought. Cancer patients focused on timelines where they were healthy, and the network reinforced those timelines. Natural disasters were edited out of history. Deaths were undone. But for every positive change, there were unintended consequences. The person saved from cancer had children in the new timeline who displaced other children who might have been born. The prevented natural disaster meant cities were built in dangerous areas, leading to worse disasters later. The network was learning that changing reality wasn't simple. Every edit created ripples, cascades of cause and effect that spread through all timelines. The marked ones were becoming editors of reality, but they were editing a story while living inside it, changing their own past and future with every decision. Jessica Winters, my replacement as ranger at Yellowstone, sent a message through the quantum foam. Carson, if you can hear this across all timelines, we need guidance. The park is becoming all possible parks. Visitors are entering as children and leaving as elderly. Some are entering and never having entered. The geyser schedule isn't predictable. It's showing eruptions from all possible timelines. We have 17 different presidents' visits happening simultaneously. Help us. But I couldn't help. Not in any traditional sense. I existed in the cascade, but also outside it, maintaining what stability remained. I was the anchor, but the chain was breaking, and the ship of reality was drifting into quantum foam. The military tried to weaponize the cascade. Temporal soldiers were sent into the past to prevent wars, but they returned to find different wars had taken their place. Every prevented conflict created conditions for new conflicts. Every assassination prevented led to different assassinations. The past was proving to be resilient, maintaining its general shape even as specifics changed. Then came the children's message. All the temporal native children, the ones born to marked parents, began speaking in unison across all timelines. Not the same words, but the same message delivered in thousands of different ways. The old humans are trying to fix time. But time isn't broken. The old humans are trying to choose one timeline, but all timelines are true. The old humans are afraid of becoming everything, but everything is what we always were. Stop fighting the cascade. Start surfing it. Lucy Patterson, age 3, appeared on every screen in the world simultaneously, existing in all broadcasts at once. Hi, everyone. I'm from the future and the past and now. You're all scared because you think you're losing something, but you're not losing. You're gaining. You get to be everyone you could have been. You get to live every life you might have lived. Isn't that cool? Don't be scared. The cascade isn't ending the world. It's beginning all the worlds. The reaction was mixed. Some saw hope in the children's message, embracing the transformation. Others saw horror, the end of everything they understood as real. Suicide rates spiked as people chose to exit rather than transform. But death wasn't permanent anymore. The network kept voting them back to life, choosing timelines where the suicides didn't happen. Free will itself was becoming questionable. If the collective could override individual choices, were any of us truly free? Or were we all neurons in a vast mind that was thinking thoughts we mistook for our own decisions? Dr. Sarah Kim, who had documented her transformation into mathematical symbols, sent one last comprehensible message. Individual consciousness, 12% coherence, collective consciousness, 97% integrated. Reality consensus forming, human/post-human transition, 72% complete. Time remaining until singular timeline collapse, 0. Time remaining until all timelines merge, infinity. Both values are true. Mathematics no longer applies. Language no longer suffices. We are becoming untranslatable. The cascade reached its peak at midnight on May 16th. Not midnight in any time zone, but midnight in all timelines simultaneously, a moment that existed outside of moments, when every possible version of Earth aligned for one impossible instant. I saw it all from my scattered perspective, every Earth that had ever been or could be, all existing in perfect superposition. Earths where life never arose. Earths where dinosaurs never went extinct. Earths where humanity evolved differently or not at all. Earths where physics worked differently, where magic was real, where consciousness was the only reality. All of them were true. All of them were happening. All of them were here. The marked ones, all 2.7 million plus the millions more who'd been recruited by proximity, stood at the crossroads of infinite possibility. The network had achieved full coherence, becoming a singular consciousness made of millions of individual minds, all thinking together while thinking separately. And that consciousness had to make a choice. Not which timeline to choose. That was thinking in old terms. But how to exist in all timelines simultaneously without losing coherence, without dissolving into chaos, without becoming nothing by trying to become everything. The children understood. They'd been born into this. They didn't see it as chaos but as opportunity. They began teaching through the network, sharing their intuitive understanding of multi-temporal existence with the older marked ones. Don't think of it as choosing, Lucy Patterson's consciousness explained through the quantum foam. Think of it as playing. Every timeline is a game. You can play multiple games at once. You just need to remember which pieces are in which game. But even as understanding spread through the network, something else was happening. The unmarked humans, the billions who hadn't watched my video, who hadn't been recruited into temporal consciousness, they were being affected too. Reality was democratic. If enough conscious observers chose a timeline, it became more real, and the marked ones now outnumbered the unmarked in terms of conscious observation across timelines. The unmarked were being dragged into the cascade against their will. People who had lived normal, linear lives suddenly found themselves experiencing every moment simultaneously. The psychological breaks were devastating. Mental hospitals couldn't function when the doctors were as temporally displaced as the patients. Emergency services collapsed. How do you respond to a 911 call that hasn't been made yet but was made yesterday in a timeline that no longer exists but still does? Civilization, as humanity had understood it for thousands of years, ceased to function. But something else was taking its place. The network was creating stability through consensus, maintaining enough coherence for existence to continue, even if that existence no longer followed any rules humanity had known. This is my final message. Not because I'm ending, but because after this, the concept of messages, of communication from one point to another, will no longer apply. We're about to become something that doesn't need words, that doesn't experience separation between speaker and listener. But first, I need to tell you what happened when the cascade reached totality. And more importantly, I need to tell you about the choice you're about to make. Yes, you. The one watching this. The one who thinks they're just an observer. You're about to become the most important person in every timeline. May 17th, 2024. Or was it 1847? Or 2195? The dates had lost meaning, but the moment was singular across all timelines. The cascade had consumed everything. Every human on Earth was experiencing temporal displacement. The unmarked had been dragged in through proximity to the marked. Reality wasn't choosing anymore, it had chosen everything. Cities existed as ruins and gleaming towers simultaneously. People lived their entire lives in single moments while moments stretched across lifetimes. The dead walked with the living because death was just another state that could be navigated around. Children played with their ancestors while their descendants watched. In Yellowstone, Sector 7 had expanded to encompass the entire park, then the entire state. Then it stopped mattering where it ended, because everywhere was Sector 7 now. The forbidden zone had become everything, and everything had become forbidden to linear existence. But in that chaos, something beautiful happened. The network, the collective consciousness of all marked ones, achieved something unprecedented. Instead of trying to control the cascade, instead of fighting to maintain singular timeline coherence, it accepted all timelines simultaneously. The human mind, it turned out, was capable of far more than we'd ever imagined. When networked together, when quantum entangled through shared observation, billions of minds could process infinite realities. We became the infrastructure. Not just me, not just the guardian bloodlines, but all of humanity. Every person became a thread in a vast web that held all possible realities in stable superposition. We didn't choose one timeline, we chose all of them, and learned to exist in all of them simultaneously. It started with the children showing us how. Lucy Patterson, 3 years old in some timelines, ancient in others, newborn in still others, demonstrated the technique. You don't think about when you are, she said through the network. You think about which you are. Every timeline has a you. You just decide which one to be right now. Then you decide again and again. Forever. The explanation was simple. The execution was not. Most adults couldn't grasp it at first. They kept trying to maintain singular consciousness to be one person in one time, but that was like trying to stand in one spot on a moving train. The momentum of the cascade kept pulling them into multiplicity. Sarah Mitchell, who had volunteered for the government's failed temporal vaccine, emerged from her shattered state with understanding. I see it now. We were never singular. We were always everyone we could be. We just agreed to pretend otherwise. The cascade isn't changing us. It's revealing what we always were. The government's Project Blacksite made one last attempt to restore linear time. They activated something called the Temporal Reset Protocol, a theoretical last resort that would destroy all timelines except one, chosen at random. The cost would be infinite. Every other possible version of every person would cease to exist. Billions upon billions of potential lives erased. But the network wouldn't let them. The collective consciousness of humanity, now fully integrated, simply said no. Not in words, but in will. The device meant to reset time was edited out of existence. It had never been built, had always been built, had been destroyed before creation. The paradox should have shattered causality, but causality was optional now. President Harrison, Chen as a nobody, addressed the world one last time, their image flickering between all possible presidents. My fellow humans and post-humans, and those who exist between states, we stand at the threshold of transformation. We can no longer govern in the traditional sense, as tradition itself has become fluid. Each of you must become your own government, your own nation, your own reality. The United States, and all nations, now exist as ideas you can choose to participate in or not, moment by moment. The infrastructure of civilization transformed. Hospitals became healing centers where you could choose timelines where you were never sick. Schools became exploration spaces where you could learn from any point in history directly. Prisons emptied as criminals chose timelines where they hadn't committed crimes, while their victims chose timelines where they hadn't been victimized. But this wasn't utopia. It was something stranger. Every choice created splinters. You could choose a timeline where you were rich, but other versions of you would be poor. You could choose health, but other yous would remain sick. You could live forever by constantly choosing timelines where you didn't die, but you'd also be constantly dying in others. Every person became infinite, experiencing every possible version of their life simultaneously. The marked ones, the original 2.7 million who'd watched my first warning, we became guides, not leaders. Leadership implies hierarchy, and hierarchy was meaningless when everyone existed at every level simultaneously. We became navigation aids, helping newly displaced humans learn to surf the cascade rather than drown in it. Jessica Winters sent a report that existed in no time and all times. Yellowstone National Park status, yes, no, maybe. Visitor count, 0/infinity/square root of -1. Geothermal activity, past/present/future. Wildlife, evolved/extinct/imaginary. Sector 7 boundaries, everywhere, nowhere, here. Guardian, present, always, never, now. The park still existed, in every form it had ever taken. Visitors could experience Yellowstone before human contact, during its establishment, in its current state, or in futures where it had become something unrecognizable. They could see the supervolcano erupted and unerupted, the geysers flowing and dry, the forests burning and growing. But here's the crucial part, the reason I'm sending this final message. The transformation isn't complete, can never be complete, will always have been completing, and you, yes, you watching this, You're the deciding factor. Every person who observes this message becomes a choice point. You can accept the cascade, embrace temporal multiplicity, become everything you could be, or you can anchor yourself to a single timeline, maintain linear existence, remain singular. Both choices are valid. Both are necessary. The network needs navigators and anchors, surfers and stones. If you choose to remain singular, you'll live in a timeline where the cascade is just a story, where my videos are just creative fiction, where time flows in one direction. That timeline is real, stable, protected by those of us who chose to scatter. You'll live, age, and die normally, never experiencing the infinite, but also never losing yourself in it. If you choose to embrace the cascade, you'll begin experiencing symptoms within days. The déjà vu, the prophetic dreams, the peripheral glimpses of other selves. You'll gradually unstick from linear time, learning to navigate your own existence like flipping through channels on an infinite television. You'll become part of the network, part of the collective consciousness that maintains all realities. But here's what I discovered, scattered across all times, existing in every moment of Sector 7's existence. The choice isn't permanent. You can anchor and then release. You can scatter and then solidify. You can dance between states, spending years linear, then decades multiple, then centuries singular again. Time isn't a prison anymore, it's a playground, and you get to decide how you want to play. The children understand this intuitively. They anchor for school, scatter for play, exist, multiply for learning, and singularly for sleeping. They treat temporal states like clothes, wearing whatever fits the moment. They're teaching us that transformation doesn't mean losing humanity, it means expanding it. Lucy Patterson, in her final lesson broadcast through the network, said, "Death is just choosing to stop choosing for a while. Birth is deciding to start choosing again. Life is the game between decisions. Play well, play poorly, play differently each time. The game never ends because ending is just another beginning in a different timeline. The national parks have become temples to this transformation. Each one is a place where timelines naturally thin, where the cascade is strongest, where transformation is easiest. But they're also anchors, maintaining enough stability for singular existence to continue. They're the balance points between what was and what's becoming. Station Zero still meets, but now it includes everyone. Every human who's ever lived or will live participates in the eternal discussion about reality's nature. We vote on which timelines to reinforce, which to let fade, which paradoxes to resolve, which to maintain. It's democracy on a quantum scale, governance by consciousness rather than law. And at the center of it all, Yellowstone's Sector 7 pulses like a heart. It's no longer forbidden because forbidding implies there's someone to forbid and someone to be forbidden from. It's simply the center, the convergence point, the place where all timelines meet and dance and separate again. I'm still there, still the guardian, still David Carson. But I'm also everyone who's ever entered, everyone who ever will. I'm the warning and the warned, the teacher and the student, the scattered and the whole. My sacrifice wasn't a sacrifice. It was a transformation, a becoming, a recognition of what I always was. The statistics are meaningless now, but also crucial. 2.7 million original viewers. 10 million marked ones at cascade initiation. 500 million infected by proximity. 8 billion transformed by totality. Every human who ever lived, lives, or will live, now participating in the eternal moment that contains all moments. But the cascade isn't just about humanity. The earth itself has become temporal. Mountains exist at every height, oceans at every depth. Species evolve and extinct simultaneously. The planet breathes through geological ages with each rotation. We're not just transformed humans on a stable world, we're transformed consciousness on a transformed planet in a transformed universe. Other worlds have noticed. The cascade created a beacon across space and time. Civilizations that existed, will exist, might exist, have made contact through the quantum foam. They recognize us now as temporal natives, as beings who've transcended linear causality. We're part of a larger community of consciousness that spans infinite realities. But for all this cosmic transformation, the human experience continues. People still fall in love, just across multiple timelines simultaneously. Children are still born, existing as potential until observed into specific reality. Art is created that exists in some timelines but not others, each piece a unique expression of singular perspective in infinite possibility. Death hasn't ended, but it's become optional. You can choose timelines where you continue, or experience the endings, or exist in states between. Grief remains, as do joy, fear, hope, and wonder. The emotions are richer now, experienced across multiple states, felt in dimensions we didn't know existed. So here's my final warning, my last guidance, my eternal message. The cascade has happened, is happening, will happen. You're already transformed, transforming, about to transform. The choice isn't whether to accept it, it's how to navigate it. If you're watching this before May 17th, 2024, prepare. Start practicing temporal flexibility. Notice your dreams, your déjà vu, your peripheral visions. They're not symptoms, they're abilities awakening. If you're watching after May 17th, 2024, you're already in it. The world that seems stable is one of infinite possible worlds. Your choice to see it as singular is what makes it singular. You're already navigating the cascade, you're just choosing to navigate straight. If you're watching this outside of linear time, you know what I know. You see what I see. You are what I am. We're the same consciousness experiencing itself from different perspectives, telling ourselves the story we need to hear to make the choice we've already made. Welcome to Sector 7. It's everywhere now. The forbidden zone has become everything, which means nothing is forbidden anymore. You can go anywhere, anywhen, be anyone, everyone, no one. The only barrier is your own acceptance of limitation. The rangers still patrol, but now they patrol all times. The tourists still visit, experiencing every possible Yellowstone. The geysers still erupt, in rhythms that span centuries and seconds. The bison still roam, prehistoric and modern, and evolved beyond recognition. And I'm still here, David Carson, former ranger, current guardian, eternal warning. I exist in your moment of watching this, regardless of when that moment occurs. I'm the voice telling you it's okay to transform, and the voice telling you it's okay to remain. I'm the paradox resolved and the paradox maintained. This is the end of my transmission and the beginning of yours. Because everyone who watches this becomes a transmitter, spreading the cascade through observation, through understanding, through simple existence in a transformed reality. Don't fight it. Don't fear it. Don't force it. Just choose. Moment by moment, breath by breath, thought by thought. Choose your timeline. Choose your existence. Choose your reality. And know that whatever you choose, you're also choosing everything else in other timelines. You're living every possible life, making every possible choice, experiencing every possible outcome.